It's Living Young Country Girl, and I am going to be sharing with you guys 8 tips for the new homeschooler. So I literally was writing them on a paper plate because I was kind of brainstorming and thinking about them, and it was the only thing I could find to write on at the time. So I wrote my notes on my paper plate, and I'm ready here to get started and share them with you. So our first tip, and this is kind of, I don't know, like this kind of goes across the board in many. This like for new homeschoolers as well as for normal homeschoolers. You don't have to be new for these tips to be helpful. So the first thing I want to say is relax. Okay, so I know when we first started homeschooling, I felt very excited, but then I felt a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, like from worrying that I wasn't going to be able to teach my kids enough, worrying that I wasn't going to be able to, just fulfill what I needed to fulfill, to make sure that they weren't falling behind, So I was super stressed. And I think that relates into your classroom, into your homeroom, so you end up feeling that stress and that pressure. And it doesn't come just like from sometimes it comes from outside sources. Sometimes you have family members or friends that are like, you're going to homeschool your kids. Like, are they going to get a good education? There's a dog under there. Sorry, I didn't want them to sit on the dog. You're worried about those kind of things, and because people are saying it at you and they're saying this to you. And so you kind of start to doubt yourself and you start to kind of get stressed. So I just want to remind you guys to relax. Don't worry. Don't dwell on if you miss a day. Don't dwell on if you miss a lesson. Those kind of things happen in regular school too. Teachers do not teach from lesson 1 to lesson, 132. They skip around just as much as we do, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. Second, they have sick days. They have 6 days just like we do. They have movie days in school. They have days where they kind of fill them with just stuff, right? Something that maybe not as productive in the learning, for their kids' learning. So keep that in mind. Like be realistic in your expectations, and then at the same time, just relax and enjoy the experience. I guarantee you that 9 out of 10 homeschooling families, if not more, are doing an amazing job at homeschooling, and their kids are going to be far further above the, typical line that you would have at school. So don't stress about that. Just relax. Just enjoy the time that you get to spend together. Second is, do not compare. Do not compare your kids to other homeschool kids. Do not compare your kids to regular public school kids, to your friends' kids. Do not compare your kids to their friends. Right here, this one, her best friend is a freaking genius. They're homeschooled. They do tutoring. She loves to read books. She was reading books at like 3 years old, like chapter books.
Like at the zoo, she'd read those things and we can't even pronounce.
Yeah, I was like, I can't even read that stuff at the zoo. I don't know what the scientific genius, and she's reading these things, and I was just like mind blown, right? And I'm like, I always felt that my daughter was pretty far along as far as like she spoke very clear sentences at a young age. She could have conversations, those kind of things. So I thought she was doing pretty good in advance until you would compare her to her best friend, which we realized that's not going to be her. She's a different person. She's very artsy, very artistic, very fun like that. Whereas her friend is very like logistic and very like structured. So it's just different people. So don't compare your kids to other kids, and don't compare your kids to other homeschool families. Don't compare you to them. Like, you be you. That's the best thing you can do, is you be you for your family. The next thing we're going to talk about is having fun days mixed in. This kind of goes along with the relaxing thing. Bye. And in that sense that it's fun. You're allowed to have those fun days. Just like I said at school, sometimes they have a movie day where they're going to watch the Polar Express or they're going to watch some movie. So be flexible and be willing to do those things with your kids too. Sometimes teachers have bad days and they just kind of go with whatever. When there's substitutes, do you think they're getting the same education? No, these things happen. So realize that if you're having a bad day, that's something that we have realized, that sometimes there are days where we try to school and it's just headbutting. People aren't getting it's not clicking. So why sit there and keep fighting when at the end of the day, they're not going to have retained anything because everybody's heads were just kind of blocking and, wasn't working. So if you find those days, you know what? Today's going to be a field trip, guys. Let's go. let's go and let's head up. We like to head to the town up a ways, and we go grab some pie, and we there's a huge step flight of stairs, and we go hike these stairs and grab a piece of key lime pie. It's one of our favorite things to do. And it's kind of one of our, you know what, we just need to get out of the house. We just need to relax, get some energy off, because you climb these 150 some stairs. And at the same time, you get to have an amazing piece of homemade key lime pie that is the bomb. So just be willing to do those things. Be willing to realize when the days aren't going to go as structured. My daughter wasn't feeling good the other day, and she spent probably about 2 hours trying to do her math lesson. And she's like, Mom, it's just, I can't focus. I can't do it. And I was like, all right, fine. You're done, but just realize you're going to have to make those up at some point. Doesn't mean we're not going to do them. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you're going to make them up, some other day. There's plenty. That's why we homeschool. We don't have to do it, 5 days a week, whatever days in a year. As long as we get them in there, as long as they're moving ahead and they've learned everything in those books, it doesn't matter if you've done every single lesson. That's kind of my philosophy. So that was number 3, was have fun days mixed in. The next one is do what works for you guys. That is so important. Number 4 is do what works for you guys, because guess what? If it's not working for you, you're going to find yourself butting heads. You're going to find yourself not enjoying it. You're going to find yourself stressed out. So find what works for you. Don't follow the norm. If you know what I mean, don't follow the big top homeschool bloggers or YouTubers, whatever it is. Don't feel you have to follow them. Do what works for you. If schooling in the afternoon works for you, great. We do school 1 to about 4 every day, 1 to 4, which may seem like a totally odd time. I know other people are like, my kids can never do school in the afternoon. I need to get them fresh and early in the morning. My kids are slow to get moving, okay? They're not ready. They're still groggy at that time. So 1 to 4 is when we do school. And then we do school Wednesday through Sunday. And we take Friday off as a field trip, catch-up day, whatever day. So we school 4 days a week. We school only about 3 hours a day. Yes, there are days where we go a lot past 4 because they're not focusing. And there's a difference between if they just keep doing it, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Obviously, you got to make them sit down and do it. But, if they are usually giving their all, then when they have those days, you move on, there are days where I will make my daughter sit and stay because I know she's kind of been playing around and watching videos on YouTube versus doing her math on her computer. And I'm like, you're going to be sitting here until that math lesson is done because you keep turning on a YouTube video and watching that instead. So, it's hard in some ways because you have access to the internet on the computer, but we need that for our math. But at the same time, I'll come over and she has her headphones on. I'm like, that doesn't look like your math lesson. That looks like a YouTube video. So we sometimes have to get on her. And in those situations, no, she's staying there until that math lesson's done because that's not a lack of her brain not working. That's just her not wanting to do it. So again, you got to do what works for you, and you've got to realize that, and just do you. That's always my favorite thing to say is you do you, I'll do me. If you don't like what I do and I don't like what you do, you know what? It's okay. We don't have to do the same thing. It's all good. It's hard sometimes though, when we see our other homeschool friends and families, doing things and we're like, I want to do that. But anyway, next one. Number 5 is to seek help when you need it. This can sometimes be hard because I know I have a couple of friends, and even sometimes I think maybe my son might be in that boat. I might have to eventually look into something like that. But if you find that your kids are struggling with something, don't feel like you have to have all the answers. It's okay to look into a tutor, find somebody at high school that can tutor them, or find somebody that is willing to tutor them because you're not clicking. Something's not clicking. The way you're saying it isn't clicking. Sometimes they just need a new, fresh perspective, and bringing somebody else in can give them that. So don't be afraid to seek help when you need it. And that goes across the board. Obviously, you're watching YouTube videos and stuff. You're probably looking for information. You're looking for help. So that's a really great start. I know we've been homeschooling for, my daughter's in 6th grade for 6 years, and I still find myself gleaning and researching and finding out new information because, there's always room to improve. If we stop trying to improve, then we're going to be, stagnant, and we don't want to do that. So, be willing to look for help, be willing to get help when needed, whether it's for you, like maybe planning and organizing is really hard. Maybe lesson planning is hard. If you have a teacher friend, ask them how they do it. I am very blessed because I have quite a few friends that are teachers in public schools, in private schools, in charter schools. My sister is a teacher, a lot of family members. So I'm blessed that I can go to them and ask them, like, what do you guys do when this happens? Or what do you do when this happens? Like, how do you guys deal with this? Or how do you guys lesson plan? Or, and it's going to be different because, they're doing it for a whole class or you're doing it for individuals, but you can get ideas from them. So even like I said, watching YouTube videos is a great spot too. Number 6, I think it is. Yeah. is, your kids are going to always be learning. So don't feel that even if you're not, like our Fridays, even though we're not technically doing school on those days, it's not that the kids aren't learning. Sometimes they're learning maybe more character things because we're going out shopping and they need to learn to be polite and respectful and obedient. So they're learning more of a character thing versus like an actual book work. Other times we're going out for a hike. So we might be talking and learning about things that we see out on the hike. We might be working around the house and, they're learning about responsibilities and chores and managing a house. So don't, like, your kids are always learning. So don't feel that like if you take a day off that you're not schooling, because I feel like a lot of times as homeschooling parents, and this goes with public school parents too, a lot of times too, but as homeschool parents, I feel that we are constantly teaching our kids because we know we're their teacher and we need to. So when opportunities arise, you're willing to say that. Like when we see something on the news or on TV even, I'm like, oh, and we start talking about history. I love history. So I can talk about history. I can find a way to talk about history pretty much anywhere. So we will end up talking about history. So your kids are always learning. So don't feel that just because you're not necessarily doing school, that doesn't mean your kids aren't getting schooled, if that makes sense. So you don't have to have an 8-hour day. You don't have to do all of those things, 5 days a week. Their kids are going to be getting a lot of education. And I find that many times my kids know more than public school kids when it comes to life or certain things, because it hasn't been talked about in that grade level yet, but yet we've talked about it because it came up in life. So, you know what I mean? It's like, it may not be necessarily something that all the kids know about, but they do because it's happened in life or we talked about it. So kids are always learning. Don't worry about it if you're not getting your, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week school in. Remember, you do you. So number 7 is evaluate your kids every year to see how they're doing. See if they are advancing, see if they're getting better. Obviously, like I just did a test on my son, and the first 2 times he did the test, he did way better. This last time, he dropped so much. So obviously something happened in the time frame where he missed it. Like something isn't clicking. Either we're moving too fast or just maybe he was just having an off day. I think I'm going to actually retest him because it was pretty bad. Like I was like, wow, I was so happy after the first test and the second test of the improvement. And then this third test, I was like, what happened? So, you have to constantly be evaluating your kids. You have to see how they're doing, if they're progressing. And again, it doesn't have to be at the same level or the same way as somebody else is or the school kids are. But as long as you're seeing that progression, you want to do that. Another thing is evaluate how they're doing socially. Are they struggling with the social aspect? Are you guys butting heads and you're finding that things aren't working because you're butting heads? There's a lot of ways you can evaluate your kids and see if homeschooling is best for you, because maybe it's not. We have some friends that ended up having to not homeschool because of financial reasons. And at first she was really, really upset because she wasn't going to be able to teach her son at home. But she ended up putting him in a school, and he was doing really good because he enjoyed the social. He was missing a lot of the social. And unfortunately, the way it was going on at home because of needing, extra income, a new baby, all this stuff, he wasn't getting the attention and he wasn't getting the socialization that he needed. So for them, it may have been a really hard thing to put him back into school, but it was what he needed. And at first I was so bummed because I loved, the idea of homeschooling with them and, those kind of things, but you got to do what's best for you. And so don't feel like a failure if you have to put your kids back in school because, life happens and that's what's going to happen, which kind of leads to our last one, which is number 8, is support other homeschool moms. This is a big one. This is a big one to me because My friend and I had a conversation this past weekend, a couple weekends ago, when we were camping, and she runs a homeschool co-op. And I remember the first time I went to this co-op, when she went to start it up, I was like, not happening, not going to this one. We're not doing it. Not happening. Nope, nope, nope. She doesn't like me. She doesn't like me. Plain and simple. Like, didn't gel. We're good. Move on, right? So now 2-3 years later, we end up being at the same church, and we start talking on this camping trip. And I was like, I remember that day, and I kept raising my hand, and you just like breezed over me and just like ignored me, and I thought you didn't like me. She's like, that's funny, I thought you didn't like me. And I was like, no, I love this lady to pieces. She has the most beautiful heart for God. She is just passionate. I mean, just an amazing, amazing person. And I love her to pieces. And I feel so bad because, like, she was saying she used to be a part of a homeschool group that was really amazing, and all of this gossip and tension started, and everybody split. And now there's really not that community of homeschooling moms anymore. It's kind of everybody out for themselves. There's so many. We live in a small town, and I can't tell you how many homeschool groups there are, which could be a great thing, right? But at the same time, what community it would be if we could all fit together, work together, appreciate each other, not judge each other, and just accept each other for who we are, versus you do K-12. Oh, well, you're not a real homeschool mom. Like, that's online school. You don't homeschool your kids. Oh, you're not doing a Christian curriculum. Well, you have to do a Christian curriculum to be a homeschool mom. Whatever it may be, this needs to stop, and we need to come together and support each other. And that may be just, a letter of encouragement. I mean, what mom would not love to receive in the mail? Hey, girl, whether you see your kids or not, just wanted to let you know, like, you're an amazing mom, and I love how you homeschool your kids, how respectful they are, whatever it is, just that word of encouragement, not just as a homeschool mom, but as a mom. That's awesome. But, just something along those lines where, if somebody says they're using this curriculum, maybe it's not your favorite curriculum. Maybe you didn't use it for your kids, but be like, that's a great curriculum. It wasn't fit for us, but it's a great curriculum, Obviously, you don't lie if it wasn't a great curriculum, but just the support for one another, just being there for one another, helping other parents not feel like their kids are idiots if they're not in the right grade, that, your son Johnny, who's 8, is doing 3rd grade work, and my son Isaiah, who's 8, is doing 2nd grade work. Oh my goodness. She's failing as a mom and as a teacher because her son is only doing 2nd. Don't do it, guys. Like, let's just accept each other, and let's support each other and be there for one another. So those are my 8 tips for homeschool moms, new moms, not new homeschool moms or dads, homeschool parents. Can be like, let's accept, right? We're accepting, we're supporting. Because I know there's just some amazing homeschool dads out there too. So let's keep that in mind, just to support one another and to just really love on one each other, and make sure that rather than choosing ways to diversify in the homeschool community, let's find ways to come together and support one another. So that's my 8 tips for a homeschool parent. I hope you guys enjoyed them. I know that so many of you homeschool parents have amazing tips and ideas. Please put them in the comment box below, because the more ideas that we get, the stronger we are as that community, and the more support we're going to be able to give to one another. So if you have a great tip for a homeschool parent, please put it in the comments below. And if you're looking for more tips, check out the comments below, because there should be some in there. So I hope you guys like this video. I enjoy doing videos like this because this is really what the passion for me for homeschooling is, the community, and being able to see that. We generally don't do co-ops because there's so much tension and gossip, and we stayed away from it because we don't want to be a part of it. But I keep thinking that some way, somehow, I need to start, like we used to have park play dates, and we don't do those anymore because it just doesn't work. But I want to find a way, even if it's once a month, to get together and have coffee and just talk and support one another. Like, how great would that be? Just to kind of be like, hey, we can do it at one of the coffee shops, and the kids can all sit and do their schoolwork. They can sit and play games, whatever it is, just a way to kind of support one another as moms. So, find a way you guys can do this. Find your community where you can connect. And I just want to thank you guys again for being a part of my YouTube family and my YouTube community. You guys are awesome, and I love you guys. So thanks so much for supporting me. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe and turn on the bell notification if you want to see my videos. And we'll see you guys all again real soon. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Bye.
Jesus,